Welcome, everybody, to our brand new podcast, our lifestyle podcast presented by It's the Principal Gaming, where honestly, we talk about life, gaming, addiction, life's ups and downs, and how to live and maintain a principled lifestyle. I'm your host, Jordan, and today we're going to kick it off nice in an old school style. So, yes, clap it up. This is our first ever podcast like this. So, as I take a sip of drink here, this will be the one and only episode that's only on YouTube, right? All the other future episodes will be on Spotify, Apple Music, etc., wherever you listen to your guys' Spotify. This is just a trial and error run. I want to make it very clear that this will be the only podcast that is somewhat edited. I'm not going to edit it too much, but just based off of what I had to do, what I had to go through in order to set this up, I'm not really too for sure what I'm doing in this sense. So in that case, there is going to be some edits here and there. I'm joined today by my dog, who is slightly annoying, and I say that with all the love, and I say that just because she's probably going to get up a bunch of times, and so I'm going to take off her collar, that way she stops shaking everywhere. But yeah, she might get up a couple times, so if you see her in the background, don't bother, or don't mind her. But yeah, so we really just, I want to emphasize that this podcast, I mean, this is just the intro to it and everything like that, so there's not really too much of how do I want to say this, of an outline here, other than, okay, I have exactly what I want to talk about throughout the future episodes, but not really what I want to talk about in this episode, if that makes sense. Now, here's what I will say, though, is this is a place that I want people to be able to come to, be able to just listen along, maybe hear some experiences that they may share some common ground in, that they could eventually offer insights to these, to what's going on and everything like that, to different guests, to different viewers, etc., as well as I just feel like this could just be a safe haven for people just to talk about anything and everything. If you guys don't know what it means to live a principled lifestyle, or what it means to be a principled person by the standards of It's the Principle, it's quite literally this. It's quite literally just being able to sit down and realize that everybody is going through something just like yourself, if that makes sense. We all go through very similar situations. Some more similar than others, and some more than you may think. So I say all that to say that, you know, sometimes people are too afraid to admit what they're going through, or they don't want to tell anybody what they're going through because it either A, just doesn't seem real enough, B, it just seems like, I don't know how to explain it, like nobody would care almost, you know? And I want to emphasize that that's not what this is at all. This is a place where you can come, share your experiences, share your thoughts, share your ideas, and share your nature. And to live a principled lifestyle, what that means is, it means to abide by oneself, right? you don't listen to what others say whenever they try to guide you through life, right? Because at the end of the day, you are your own guidance. And if you aren't your guidance, the universe is your guidance. Your heart is. Whoever you believe in religious-wise, that's your guide, right? And some people just kind of float willy-nilly through the universe and just kind of take it day by day and do whatever. No, you got to take the universe by the balls, man. You got to take the universe by the balls. So that's what it means. Way more than just living. It means taking control of your life. It means making the right decisions for yourself at the right time. Not letting anybody else's opinions or thoughts or ideas weigh in on what you believe is right for yourself, right? So we're a group of individuals who are like-minded in the sense that we have the same vision. We are visionaries. And the beauty about being a visionary and that leads me, I'm sorry, I have to keep myself going here, keep the juices flowing, but that leads me to say this. People, including myself, go through all these different things in life, and you're put in a position to where you might think to yourself, like, what the fuck am I doing and why am I still doing it? Why am I still here at the same job that I've been at for the last 5 years, put my blood, sweat, and tears in, and I still haven't gotten a raise, or I still haven't gotten promoted? Why am I still here working my ass off and nobody's recognizing it? What the fuck am I doing wrong? And then you're put into like some sort of depression, some sort of mental stated depression because you feel like you did wrong. And that just honestly recently happened to me, in the sense of like, basically, long story short, I do want to touch on this story a lot and, you know, ultimately one day maybe fully immerse you guys into this story. But you know, a couple years ago, 2023, you know, the end of 2022, I believe, or maybe it was the end of 23 into 2024. Yeah, that's what it was. It was the end of 2023 into 2024. That like 8-month period from like October 23 to maybe I guess it was more of a 6-month period. It was like late September to late April. I lived in New Mexico for the first time. And I didn't like it, to say the least, for different reasons. One of the biggest reasons why I didn't like it is because it was a huge change from what I'm used to. I was born and raised and grew up and lived in Austin, Texas, that is, for the majority of my life. For about 24 years, I've lived in Austin, Texas. There's been a couple years, couple months in between that I've lived outside of Austin, but for the majority of my fucking life, for the majority of my 26 years, I've lived in Austin, Texas. I love that city. It's my favorite city that I've ever been to in America, and I'm not just saying that for like bias sake. Like it's genuinely one of the greatest cities, if not the greatest city in America. And I just absolutely love it. And so I was a lot homesick. I believe I moved here because I had lost my job selling cars for the first time. And ultimately, I was put in a position to where, with my friends that I was living with at the time, with my roommates, prior to moving to New Mexico, I was put in a position to where it's like I didn't have a job for over 30 days, and they're like, hey, look, man, if you need help, covering and everything like that, we can help you out until you get back on your feet. And, you just pay us back whenever you get a chance. I can help you get a car, etc., etc. Our roommates were pretty cool. But I didn't want that burden. I didn't want to have the burden of having somebody to carry my weight. The thing that I fucked up on. Ultimately, me losing my job was my fault. You know what I mean? It's not like I wanted it to happen, but at the end of the day, I could have done a lot of things, especially in the sales world, to prevent that. But life happens for a reason, right? Everything happens for a reason. And I told my friends, I was like, hey man, look, don't worry about it. If I don't get a job within a week, I'll just, move back in with one of my parents, and we'll just kind of go from there. And, my mom lives in Virginia. And I lived in Virginia before, and I didn't really like it. Matter of fact, I hated it much more than I hated New Mexico in retrospect. But Virginia just wasn't for me, right? And I never really lived by the mountains. I visited the city in which I live in now, and where I moved to at the time. I visited, New Mexico and Taos and everything like that, couple years prior to even moving there the first time, and I thought it was pretty cool. So I was like, okay, I can get down with this. And it snows up here. I live right in the middle of a mountain. I live between like 3 mountains actually, so I can go skiing and snowboarding all the time, and just beautiful golf during the summer, just all this other stuff. So, but just at the time, I just wasn't happy. I don't know why. I think I was resentful that I lost my job, etc., etc. But I moved here, and then the winter storm hit, and it just kind of sucked because I'm not a big fan of the winter, especially coming from Texas. We don't really have a big winter, well, in Austin, and so it just sucks seeing the snow every single day. I had to work every single day during the winter. I couldn't enjoy it, etc., etc. And all in all, it was just tearing me down mentally. And it got to the point to where I broke down, and I was like, I'm fucking done. I have to leave. And I just felt like I was doing everything wrong. I felt like I was doing wrong, and the biggest reason why I felt like I was doing wrong is because I lost my job, and I had to move back in with my parents, and I'm fucking in my mid-20s. I fucked up. And, in retrospect, that's partly the reason why I'm in New Mexico again. But apart from all that, I didn't learn the lesson the first time. And I think that's the biggest reason why, right? And so I'm frustrated. I'm lashing out. I'm showing my anger physically, and just wasn't a good time. And ultimately, I made the decision to move back to Texas, to move back to Austin. And what helped me make that decision was my old roommate. And he invited me back over to his house, etc., etc. So I was like, screw it. And, a month later goes by, packed up all my things, grabbed my dog, who, if it wasn't for going to New Mexico the first time, I would have never had this dog, which turned into a whole plethora of, I wouldn't say problems, but complications in the future. I.e., she ended up getting pregnant, etc., etc. Just a whole a lot of things that made me have to take a pause on life, but that's besides the point. But, you know, I packed up everything that I had and got into a U-Haul and drove back to fucking Texas. And, you know, actually I didn't even get in a U-Haul. My friend drove me in his car. Got in his car, packed up his car to the brim. Sayonara, you know what I mean? And I got to Texas and, you know, things just didn't work out like it was planned. I wasn't able to stay with my old roommates, etc., etc., so I found myself basically homeless. I'm thinking, like, what the fuck do I, like, literally, what the fuck do I do now? Like, fuck, I fucked up harder, you know? And then I had to swallow my pride. I couldn't necessarily, I didn't feel right to call back my parents and just be like, hey, let me go back. You know, it's like, I'm here now. I made this decision. Let's make the best out of it. Luckily, I was able to find a job, kept me afloat, was able to find people within that job to stay with at the time. And, you know, ultimately I rekindled with one of my old roommates that I stayed with at like my first apartment when I was like 18. And, you know, I stayed with him and his girlfriend for a bit and got another job selling cars, specifically trucks, diesel trucks. And I was doing that for a while. And then with that, I was able to get my own apartment. So I had my own apartment for a while. And I was a little outside of Austin, like near San Marcos area. I lived in San Marcos, like right by Texas State and shit like that. So, but you know, I was able to get my apartment and everything like that, and life was good. And then 6 months later goes by, and same thing. Lose my job. And for those of you who might be tuning in and might be in the car industry or in, you know, the works at a car dealership, especially as a salesman or something like that, you kind of know the turnover rate's really high. You know, not only do you have to meet and crush your quota a lot, but like, if you're not doing that consistently, they're just going to find somebody else who can. You know what I mean? And sometimes it's not necessarily the seller's fault. You know, there's droughts in selling in the sense of, you know, people, you know, there's ups and downs. There's trends within the market, just like any other market is concerned, right? And without boring you guys too much with the details, I mean, it's just a high turnover rate. Any sales job is. But, you know, I wasn't able to, I guess, maintain the speed that I needed to maintain or whatever. And I don't really know. Things were just kind of going awry anyway. I mean, I was butting heads with my coworkers. We were a very tight-knit circle. It was only like 3 or 4 of us, and we all worked in one office together. And you know, it was just a very tight-knit thing. So it's just like clash of personalities. I don't know. It just didn't work out. And at that point, I was like, okay, I'm gonna take content seriously. I'm just gonna full-fledged go into content. Whatever happens, happens. I'll go get a job, fast food somewhere, blah, 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 and make it work. I gave myself 30 days to find a job. And it sucks because if I would have just stayed there a couple of days longer, I would have been able to secure a job, been able to keep my apartment, but I gave myself 30 days. At the 30-day mark, I didn't have any leads, I didn't have any opportunities, so I said, fuck it. Probably applied to over 300 different places, remotely, and, you know, just within the vicinity of San Marcos, within a walking distance even. And just, you know, none of them hit me back until after the 30-day period, which seems to be like a reoccurring thing. I see a lot of people on Twitter talk about that too. They lose their job. It's been just a little over 30 days and I finally got, you know, my first reply back from all the job searches I've been doing, you know what I mean? It's kind of crazy that it takes over 30 days to hear back from an employer, but I guess there is a lot of people applying, you know what I mean? I don't know how that works. Anyway, back on topic. So I called my dad back up and I was like, hey, you know, I wasn't able to find a job here. I'm about to not be able to pay rent. And he was like, well, what do you want to do? I can, you know, help you pay rent, blah, 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 blah. Or, you know, you could help me come here and I need help with the business. You know, your auntie's not feeling too good, so I got to go see her, blah, 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 blah.
all this and this other stuff. And again, I didn't want to have the burden of having anybody to pay for my mishaps, to pay for my shortcomings. And even if it was my parents, whenever I was 18 to 21, every month, ring, 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 Mom, can I borrow $500 for rent? Dad, can I borrow $500 for rent? Boom, there's my rent money. Because I was dumb and I spent all my money on weed, I spent all my money on video games, I spent all my money on doing God knows what, food, dating, whatever the case was. I just didn't know how to budget money. You know what I mean? And, slightly I still kind of struggle with it a little bit. I mean, I'm getting a lot better than I was now, like back then, but fuck, dude, I suck. And, got to a point to where I just kind of, I can't say that I went with my gut because I don't know if that was my gut feeling, but I guess it was my gut feeling because I'm here now. But ultimately, I was just like, you know what? Like, maybe it does make more sense to like go back to New Mexico and help you out and whatnot. Luckily, I did. Within the first week that I moved here, not that this is a good thing and rest in peace, but my aunt did unfortunately pass away. So my dad did have to go and spend time with her while he could. And so for that, I had to take over my dad's business and for the time being, and then just run that. And, for the first few months that I've been here, I've only been here since, I think I got here in like end of March, maybe beginning of April. So I've only been here like 3 or 4 months. And whenever I first got here, it was just, I was just getting drilled by life, man. By the universe, by God, I guess. I don't know. But, my aunt dies. A couple days after my aunt dies, my dog gets pregnant. I didn't want my dog to get pregnant. My dog got pregnant 2 days before she was supposed to get spayed, which makes it even more worse. But, I didn't want to have puppies, and it was just a nightmare. And so for 8 weeks, I was basically tied down to my dog. And even then, for another 8 weeks after that, maybe 6 weeks, not necessarily 8 weeks, but for 6 weeks after that, it was 8 weeks. I think it was 6 weeks for the pregnancy. I don't know, it's 60 days for the pregnancy, 63 days that they're pregnant. So about two months. And so that about, I'll say 7.5 weeks, right? 7 to 8 weeks. And then I didn't get rid of the last puppy until another 8 weeks. So it was 16 weeks that I didn't have to myself. It was 16 weeks that I didn't have an opportunity to work as much as I did. I lost a lot of fucking money. And I'm not saying that in the sense of, oh, feel bad for me. I'm not saying that because, oh, I have no money. Fuck that. No. I mean, at the end of the day, if I would have waited longer and if I would have been more patient, I could have just sold the puppies and, got my money back that way. But instead I gave them away for free. There was a couple that I sold, but for the most part, I gave them away for free. And it still was bothering me because it's like, why the fuck am I here, bro? Nothing is getting accomplished here. Nothing is happening. Like, what the fuck am I doing? And I just felt stuck. And, one day, as I'm going through all this, I talked to a good friend of mine, Brian. And, and he lets me know, he goes, hey, we have a discussion back and forth, and it ultimately leads to, it's the principle. And then I find myself starting a business, and then I find myself starting a store, designing clothes, designing merch. And then we launch our store. That happens July 1st. We launched our store. And then behind the scenes, something happened. Fast forward a month later, I get some of the best news of my life, I guess. And it's an opportunity to open up an actual physical store location for It's the Principal. It's like, fuck yeah, dude, I'll do it. And so now, by the end of the year, I'm going to have my own actual store. I'm not saying that that's the purpose as to why I'm here. Maybe it is, but like, had I stayed in Texas, none of this would have happened. Or maybe it would have happened, but it would have happened so much slower. You know what I mean? And I told myself at the beginning of the year, like, that this is my year of growing. This is my year of just ditching my old self, becoming a new person, developing into a new person, and ultimately telling myself that I can do it. Telling myself that no matter what it is that I think, it can be achievable. I suffer personally from like just a lot of self-doubt. And I don't know if anybody else can relate to this. And if you can, please comment down below, because I've yet to find anybody that does. But I have, like, it's got to be like a condition or something like that. I don't know what it is. I don't necessarily know if there is a word for it. Curious as to if there is. But I have a condition to where, like, in my brain, I just automatically think of, like, whenever I'm presented with a situation, I think of an outcome, and I think of every single possible outcome that could happen. And then I end up having an internal warfare with myself, with my thoughts, between self-doubt and just saying that, like, this isn't gonna work. For example, every time that I have an idea, or like for content, you know, like I was streaming on and off for the last 10 years. I never really took it seriously. And even whenever I did take it seriously, the most, whenever I was like 16, 17, I still didn't fully commit because I kept telling myself, like, what if I'm not good enough? Why me type shit, you know? Like, what if I'm not good enough? Instead of just doing the damn thing. And I told myself that so much to the point where I just eventually stopped streaming because I couldn't keep going and keep up the confidence. And it's the same thing now. It's like every time that I press record on a video, it doesn't matter if it's a gaming video, it doesn't matter if it's a video for my personal channel, it doesn't matter what the case is. It's like, why the fuck am I doing this? And it wasn't until just very recently to where I told myself, like, no, fuck that. We're going with what, you know, my original thought process was at the beginning of the year. This year is about growth. This year is about change. Say yes to pretty much everything. Unless it's an opportunity to get yourself killed, say yes to everything. And that's what I'm doing. And I'm just, I every single day, I wake up, I do what I want to do. I don't do what anybody tells me to do. I know that sounds so stupid. But just think about it. Think about how many times a day your boss might tell you to do something. What if you just didn't do it? Of course, there's certain things that you're going to have to do, especially in the sense of your job, you know, around the office, etc., etc. But what if you do it on your own terms? That is the power of free will. Every single one of us humans possess it. It's not right for me or anybody to take that power away from you. Doesn't matter who you are. If you find yourself in a position at work to where you're being told what to do constantly, and every time that you're doing whatever it is that you're being told, you're not getting rewarded for it, you're not getting affirmed for it, etc., etc., it's not normal. How much of that are you going to put up with? Truthfully. I'm not trying to come on here as a Gen Z or as a millennial or whatever the fuck you want to call me, and say like, oh, you know, blah blah blah, hard work doesn't exist anymore. Like, no, it's like, it's not. It has nothing to do with that. How much self-respect do you fucking have? Really? How much self-respect do you have? I can personally only put up with so much, man. I forget, there's a word for it. I forget what exactly the word's called, and I wish I had like a little fast computer thing that I could search up with real quick. But I have this thing where I just like, I dislike being told what to do. You know what I mean? It's just like, I forget what it's called. Demand avoidance. That's what it's called. So I have this like, I have ADHD, I have ADD, I have manic depression, I have slight autism in the sense that I have like Asperger's, and etc. etc. These are the conditions that I have, right? With that, I have demand avoidance. It's very common with people with ADHD, with autism, etc., etc. I don't like being told what to do, bro. Just plain and simple. If you sound like you're demanding me to do something, I'm either going to lash back at you, I'm going to argue about it, or I'm just not going to do it. As I've gotten older and more mature, you know, obviously there's times where I can't just be like, screw you and not do it. Especially whenever it comes to when my bosses tell me to do something, or etc., etc. But, you know, again, how much self-respect do you have for yourself, man? Why the fuck go on your hands and knees to go out of your way to please somebody else? To satisfy somebody else's soul? To lick their fucking balls enough, and they don't even look at you back? Why continue doing that for people? Nah, man. Don't show out for people who don't show out for you. I don't care if it is your boss. If your boss isn't doing their part as a boss and commending you, think about it whenever you were growing up. Think about whenever you were in school. You got an A on a test. Doesn't matter if you're in elementary school or fucking high school. You got an A on your test. That teacher said, A+, good job. A+, smiley face. Every single time. It doesn't fail. Yeah, you had those one or two teachers that didn't give a fuck. But the ones who did, the ones who cared, the ones who were there to teach, the ones who were there to make a difference in kids' lives, they made sure to put a good job, a smiley face on every single A that exists. You turn in a report to your boss, and your boss looks at you and says, this is dog shit. Do you think you deserve that as a human? Fuck no. And the more you put up with it, the more that you think that that's okay. You think that it's okay for society to shit on you. It's not okay for society to shit on you. That's what creates depression. Sometimes, hey, for people like me, there's a lot of people in this world that are born with it. Sucks. But there's also a lot of people with situational depression, seasonal depression, etc., etc. And it lasts longer than it should because people like that let other people shit on them. Let people constantly rain on their parade. Fuck that. Take control of your life. Take control of your life. Grab life by the nuts. Grab life by the tits. And let him know who the fuck is boss. You control your own life. We are all creators in this world. every single one of us wakes up and creates. You may not think that you create something, but you do. You create interest. You create emotions, for better or for worse, for other people. You create so many different events throughout the world. If it wasn't for what you just did 30 minutes ago, what just happened right now would have never happened. Think about it. Everything on this earth that isn't green, that doesn't come from the ground, that doesn't bleed blue as far as a natural lake or ocean is concerned, was put on this earth by a human being. A human being created that. You look outside, you see your fence, a human being created the concept of a fence. And then furthermore, do you know how many reiterations of a fence had to happen before you look outside and that fence is a thing? We all got different fences. Way past that, somebody created that window that you're looking past. Somebody created that screen. Somebody created the paint. Somebody created the walls. Somebody created the mixture for the walls. Somebody created the concrete. Somebody created the mixture for the concrete. Somebody create. We can go on. Your shirts, your clothes, your shoes, everything. We are all artists in some way, shape, form, or another. We are all artists. Which is why we get upset when people shit on our ideas and on our visions. That's normal. But at the same time, just because somebody else doesn't believe in your vision, just because 100 people that you may have told, which not everybody deserves to hear about that shit, by the way. Gotta keep that shit to yourself until it does make sense. But how many people thought Jesus Christ was crazy? Especially the second time he rose. How many people? You know what I mean? How many people thought Moses was crazy? Do something so wholeheartedly that you believe in, it makes you almost delusional that you believe in it. It may take 10 years, it may take 20 years, but eventually somebody else is going to believe in that shit. And they're going to reward you for it. Every day I wake up, especially ever since I started, it's the principle. I wake up and think, is this the right thing? Is this what I'm meant to do? Is this what I want to do? I'm broke. Spend all my money on this. Blah, 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 blah. Like, I could literally go to any other dealership, sell cars, make a comfortable living, be okay. I want to start a family soon, etc., etc. Like, is this the right time and place? Is it too late to do this? No, it's never too late. I'm exactly where I need to be in life at this moment in time. You are exactly where you are meant to be in this life at this moment in time. Remember that. Just remember that. Without further ado, there's not much more that I wanted to talk about. I just kind of wanted to give you guys an insight of what to expect, of what to look forward to on these episodes. Eventually, we're going to have guests. We're going to have different members of ITP on these episodes, etc., etc. Anybody's able to come on these episodes and come have a chat with me. So if you guys want to have a chat with me, come on. Let's talk about it. The beauty of it is eventually, that's what the principle is it's an organization, it's a community of creators, it's a community of visionaries, it's a community of artists who want to see a difference in the world for the better, to physically see a difference in the world by the art that they create. by inspiring others, etc., etc. So if you do any sort of art, which I know you do, and you like what we stand, you like our cause, consider dropping us a follow, consider subscribing to us, and get in touch with me. You can get in touch with me through the It's the Principal social medias, or you can go to my personal social medias, which you can find through Jay Sturdy. Just search up Jay Sturdy and you'll find me. And at that point, we can get you a part of the team. I'd love you for anybody and everybody to join. No, I'm not trying to start a cult. No, It's the Principal is not a cult. Rather, just a place, an organized space, an organized network of like-minded individuals that are here to make a difference for this earth. So if that's you, if that describes you, come on now. Come on now. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the pilot episode of It's the Lifestyle presented by It's the Principal. We will have, hopefully, hundreds, if not thousands of episodes to come. I plan on doing these weekly. If I'm not joined by a guest, I will be here by myself with a format much like this. I appreciate you guys all from the bottom of my heart for tuning in. Again, it's been your host, Jordan, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.